Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies. Doing a rapid fire, so let's hit it. It's several months later. The holiday killer is still loose and killing bad guys, but Batman's been under Poison Ivy's spell. He's saved by Catwoman. The son of the Maroney crime family turns himself into Harvey Dent for his family's crimes, resulting in a terrible tragedy.
What in blazes happened? Part 1 was so good and grounded. Now all of a sudden it's a bombastic DCEU flick?
Okay, it's still mostly executed smarter, darker, and all around better than most DCEU flicks, but this is a gigantic step back from Part 1. Its plot feels like an animated greatest hits of Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy rather than being its own thing. Scarecrow hits Batman with his gas, who then has to be saved by someone else. Harvey turning into Two-Face and going after the mob bosses who distorted his face. Even having a random time jump that we're just supposed to accept. Even the new stuff it adds, Catwoman's backstory, Falcone's daughter, the recreation of the death of the Wayne family. Most of it feels unnecessary and the climax feels bloated. What it gets right is Bruce's uncertainty of his family's legacy, the portrayal of Two-Face, and the ending, which I really didn't see coming. I still have my questions, but it's mostly executed perfectly. A pretty big letdown considering how much I loved Part 1. Self-indulgent, derivative, but I guess not without its good moments. Not enough to make it good, but still probably more worthwhile than Aquaman 2. My honest rating for The Long Halloween Part 2, a weak 3 out of 5.
Hold all my calls. I have to terminate someone.
The Fast Crew is back, but all of a sudden, Dom has an evil younger brother who intends to take over the world. Han's not dead, Cypher's back with an unflattering bowl cut, and Tej and Roman go into space.
It's a Fast and Furious movie. Of course it's gonna be dumb, of course it's gonna be explosive, and of course it's gonna be endlessly entertaining.
Yes, I'm aware of how dumb it is that Jacob hasn't been referenced once in these movies up to this point. I barely care. If the Fast Crew can go into space and their spin-off has super suits, then an unknown brother is hardly the most egregious offense. The action is over-the-top nonsense, but like any good Fast movie, the climax is where it's at, and that gets creative with said action. Awesome time. Not all of it makes sense, if any of it, but I don't come to these things wishing for it to be sensible. I have my issues, however. Cypher is a secondary villain and only becomes a threat in the tail end of the third act, contributing little to the overall plot other than to sow discourse within the villainous inner circle and Star Wars references, of which this movie has a metric crap ton. And the flashback sequences with a younger Dom and Jacob felt pretty random and forced. Also, you'll never convince me that Diesel and Cena are blood relatives. This was very distracting.
Anyone who says that this is legit bad, I'm sorry mate, I don't get it. Even the CG heavy ones, which this is, aren't that bad. Fans of the franchise will have a ball with it. If you're not a fan, this won't change your mind.
My honest rating for F9, a 4 out of 5.
We've taken out cars, trains, tanks. I'm not going to even mention the submarine.
And yet we're still here.
Exactly.
Emily Blunt wants to find a super special tree petal in the Amazon that could solve all the world's health problems. She doesn't get along with her travel guide, The Rock, because he's a big fat lying jerk. And they're being chased by a German jerk who wants the petals for world domination, I guess.
The first Disney flick that I've seen in a long time that didn't make me groan all the way through. This was actually kinda fun.
By no means anything to write home about. The action is so campy and silly that it feels closer to a cartoon and would probably best serve as such. Questionable storylines, character motivations don't always leave an impact, and how many times do we need to comment on Blunt's pants? Strictly speaking, this isn't a good movie. With that said, Blunt is a charming actor who never fails to make me smile, and surprisingly, Dwayne Johnson matches. His unintentionally bad jokes were on point. A lot of the comedic timing was, and I did have a few solid laughs. What really got me was Jesse Plemons as the villain. He was funny, a little thick on his stereotypical German accent, but otherwise had a fun sense of humor as well. Though the special effects weren't great on them, the villain conquistadors had cool designs and powers, so the action was never boring.
I don't support Disney, but as a movie, this was pretty entertaining. Very stupid, but there's just enough charm and well-placed laughs to keep you engaged. I recommend it.
My honest rating for Jungle Cruise, a 4 out of 5.
You okay, lady?
I'm fine.
You want to turn back fans?
No, just getting started.
Good, me too.
Armie Hammer is an undercover Fed trying to bring down a drug kingpin. Gary Oldman plays a university professor who created a drug that could be very addictive, but no one wants to believe him. Evangeline Lilly plays a mom whose son died of a drug overdose and is on a revenge trip for the person who killed him.
By God, the title is misleading, making you think it's gonna be thrilling and exciting. But I've had shifts at the restaurant that I work in more worthy of the title. It's so boring!
None of the respective plot lines feel like they have anything to do with one another. Things eventually tie together, but it's so forced and doesn't connect until pretty much the very end of the movie. While I can respect the intent of the filmmakers to shed light on a very serious real-world problem, I assume anyway, the story is ultimately unfocused, and at times the tone is enough to give you a horrible case of whiplash that would make roller coasters feel like those baby trains you see in malls. Coupled with a once amazing cast that fell from grace, some much harder than others, the otherwise solid acting is woefully wasted on material that anyone could have written. Everything feels so derivative that it leaves no impact despite an important subject matter. But Michelle Rodriguez is in it. She doesn't do anything.
Fuck this place!
Though I wouldn't put it on my list of worst movies this year, it's undeniably forgettable and definitely not worth a 2-hour runtime. Not recommended.
My honest rating for Crisis, a weak 3 out of 5.
Even everything that happened between us, I thought we were friends.
So did I.
Ruby Rose is a former drug courier. Morgan Freeman took her in to help take care of her dying daughter. Morgan Freeman then decides to kidnap her daughter and wants Rose's talents to retrieve a bunch of money from a bunch of bad guys, all the while avoiding them and corrupt cops.
Holy crap, if I thought Crisis was boring and forgettable, then this cranks it up to 11. What a steaming pile of nonsense!
Man, I wanna like Ruby Rose, I really do. I think she can be a good actress if she were given the right material, but jeez does she pick the worst projects to showcase that. And if there were chunky sprinkles on that crap-flavored cake, this'd be it. This is trying so hard to be a serious crime drama while also being a no-holds-barred action romp, but it fails spectacularly at both. The drama feels ham-fisted thanks to a god-awful script, therefore making both Rose and Freeman look bad, resulting in terrible chemistry. The action is threadbare and not the least bit exciting or tense, with maybe the exception of one surprise murder. But worst of all, it's structured like a video game, and a bad video game at that. Leave the house, get the money, come back to Freeman. Leave the house, get the money, come back to Freeman. In tandem, 5 freaking times! Also, it's shot like a high school film project, a vomit-inducing color scheme. It fails to have a style all its own.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking bad, though yet again, I don't know if I would put this on my list of worst movies. Simply on the grounds that I don't think it's insultingly bad, but no, it's bad.
My honest rating for Vanquish, a 2 out of 5.
Come on, have a little sippy sip. Mommy don't like to drink alone.
Catherine Watterson is a 19th century woman dealing with a husband she barely loves and the death of their child. She starts to fall in love with Vanessa Kirby, who is married to a jerk-face husband.
Hey, Hollywood, stop killing the gays and or making them miserable. I promise, it's possible to make a movie where they get a happy ending. That isn't controversial.
Sadly, the LGBTQ movie tropes are on full display here. It's a forbidden romance to men with expectations. They have their affair kind of abruptly, something tears them apart in the third act, and then someone dies at the end. Ever since this was made known to me, I can't stop seeing it, even in the LGBTQ movies that I do like, and I've basically told myself that Portrait of a Lady on Fire is the last time I'll accept these tropes. Sure, the acting from Watterson and Kirby is pretty good, having clearly distinct personalities that mesh well together, but that's kind of the only real positive. Watterson's narrations were excessive and mostly unnecessary, and nearly every other spoken line from her has to be about her childhood. It's essentially a love at first sight story, a particular annoyance to me, and there's no decent dudes in these women's lives, just different shades of intolerance.
Personally, I don't really care about this one. By no means bad, I guess. It's just I've seen this story played out in better flicks. Unless you're a fan of the cast, I don't really recommend this.
My honest rating for The World to Come, a 3 out of 5.
My mind turns to her and I think with a special heat. Why are we to be separated?
Sort of based on true events. Zola is a server and a part-time stripper. She meets Stephanie. They become friends, and Stephanie invites her to Tampa, Florida to strip. Turns out, Stephanie is also a hooker, and her pimp forces Zola to stick around, despite the fact that she really doesn't want to.
This was so close to being really good, but then it just dropped the ball hard for me, and I never quite got back into it.
What I loved about it initially was the style, the way that the story is presented. Breaking the fourth wall, there's a certain charm to the characters. Riley Keough downright won me over for how well she played Stephanie, and Taylor Paige's Zola was really engaging as the grounded one. It's only around when Zola realizes that she's only here to participate in the prostitution where I get lost. The pimp weirdly changes his accent and vaguely threatens her, and she just obeys him? Why? This is a question I kept asking as I was watching. Why didn't she call her boyfriend for help? Why didn't she call the police for help? Why didn't she do anything to help her own situation? I guess I could deduce that Stephanie is extraordinarily manipulative, but that excuse only flew for so long before I started asking my questions again.
I really wanted to like it. There is a charming style to it. But for how dumb I thought Zola was, how certain questions weren't being answered, it really took me out of it. Good acting, interesting story, flawed details. Not recommended.
My honest rating for At Zola, a 3 out of 5.
You are messy. Your brain is broke. Have fun, be safe, wear condoms.
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Hope to see you soon.
One final caveat as you guys move on with your day, I've decided to test my luck at a Patreon, so please consider supporting the channel. No obligations, of course, no content is gated off, but any and all contributions would mean a lot. Link in the description. Have a great one, folks.